Welcome to Cocktails with the Krewe, a podcast about wedding planning. Episode 7.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Cocktails with the Krewe. I am Jessica Burke with New Orleans Weddings Magazine and my lovely co-host.
I'm Jessica Talazak with Republic NOLA.
Yes, we are here on set in the lovely Republic NOLA, and we are talking about cultural traditions today. So
yeah, we've been talking about that for the past couple of episodes, just talking about traditions in general.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about traditions from around the world.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
But before we get started, we have a first order of business, which is always our cocktail of the day, and Jessica is our cocktail mixer extraordinaire. And so tell us what you have for us today.
So this one, we try to keep it seasonal. So this one we developed for summer, but it really could be for any time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a play on the classic Aperol Spritz, which everybody loves. It's nice and light and refreshing. This one's got a little bit of raspberry in it. So we've got some muddled raspberries, a little bit of Stoli raspberry vodka, and then Aperol and soda right now. And then we're going to top that with a little Prosecco.
Yes. It's a bubbly.
Which I'm going to pop now because,
Yes.
That's always fun. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll top that with a little Prosecco. Nice and light and bubbly. And then we've got some fresh raspberries floating in there because everybody likes a little fresh fruit garnish.
And since we never drink alone,
yeah,
we have guests. We have a fabulous guest. You've met her before on the show. And I believe Jessica is going to do the introduction for our first guest.
So this is Rena Sweeney with Alchemy Events. Welcome.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you
Thank
again.
you.
This
Thank
is for
you.
you.
All right, I'm going to go over to my little chair over here.
Yeah.
And we have to do our cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
There you go.
Cheers.
And so, Rena, I know we have met you before, but just in case someone's coming on for the first time, tell us a little bit about Alchemy Events, who you are, and the question of the day: what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, I'm going to start with the super fun part. What gets me out of bed in the morning
There you go.
is what I do. It's doing weddings and events that are really unique and fun, multicultural. I think most of my clients come to me because they're looking for something just really extraordinary.
Yes.
Typically that also means out of the box and kind of different.
Yes.
But it could just be that they, really want something over the top or that's very personalized to them. And so that's really kind of what I'm about. And I also specialize in a lot of multicultural weddings. So
Which is why
this
you're
is the perfect topic
Yeah,
for
which
today.
is why you are our perfect guest.
Yeah, you are here today. So I know we have a whole bunch of questions for you, and I'm going to pull up my list right here. But we had, you do, like you said, you do a lot of traditions from around the world. You work with a lot of couples. Maybe they're not, I'm sure you do have people that come here from around the world, but I mean, as we've discussed in previous podcasts, New Orleans is a cultural melting pot. There is so much here. There's so many different types of cultures, and we don't clash. We just kind of come together and really have an awesome time.
Yeah.
It's like a just fantastic gumbo, a cultural gumbo, as you
Cultural
learn.
gumbo.
Right.
Yes.
So, so what are some cultural traditions that you've seen from around the world that you just love, that you think people in New Orleans should just maybe enjoy or embrace or have fun with and take off on their weddings?
I think some of my favorite moments are, during the reception when they're really having fun, and a lot of different cultures. I find the more you learn about them, the more you see the similarities in yourself too. And so really a lot of them kind of interconnect and are similar. We have specialty dances here. I know that on the previous episode, you guys talked about doing like the money dance and some things that are very specific to New Orleans. And there are definitely other cultures that have dances or things that are similar to like a second line parade and things that I think are really great to do, kind of that cultural melting pot, if you will, for weddings here in New Orleans. So it's a great way or if the couple's from here but they're getting married somewhere else and doing a destination wedding outside of New Orleans, it's a nice way to give a nod back to their home city. So there are different things, like I said, you might have a parade, or some traditions like Assyrian weddings. The groom's family goes and gets the bride and escorts her to the wedding. And it's very similar to a second line. It's definitely a party, and they have hankies that are beaded. And
I think that the Vietnamese culture is similar to that. The groom goes to the bride's house, and there's a tea ceremony, and but it's a parade. It's a whole parade and a presentation.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the same thing with the dances too. I mean, we have certain things here, and a lot of other cultures. In Celtic culture, they have a dance that's sort of the last dance of the evening, and the bride and groom will stand in the middle, and everybody kind of gathers around, and it's just a fun way to end the evening and kind of cap things off, which again also kind of plays into the second lines here, with kind of most weddings here end the evening with that. Sometimes you'll do them after the ceremony, but a lot of people, it's kind of the end of the night thing is the send-off.
Yes.
So, I think there are just fun things that, whether you're, Scottish or Irish, or if you have Assyrian or Asian or Latin roots or whatever it is, there are a lot of fun ways that you can still incorporate your cultural traditions into New Orleans, or vice versa. If, we're doing a wedding in another part of the country or out of the country, but they want to bring in some New Orleans things too.
Because that's an interesting, you do travel and you do events in other cities. Do you find people wanting to say, hey, you're from New Orleans, can you bring the party here? Where we are, can you bring the party to us?
Yes, and yes, we can.
How challenging is that? I mean, New Orleans is it's all about the vibe here. We are very laissez-faire. We have a lot of fun. How challenging is it to take New Orleans to other places?
I think the biggest challenge, honestly, is doing a second line in other cities, because people don't really understand. They're like, well, it's a parade, so they're like, do we watch? And I'm like, trust me. Get a drink and a hanky and just go with it. You're gonna catch on.
Yes, like the good times roll here.
Yes, exactly. But I think that's the biggest thing that I get elsewhere, is that they're not really sure what's the second line, how do I do it, is there a certain dance, and I'm like,
it's anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is New Orleans.
Right. Yeah.
This is what our culture is about.
Embrace it, yeah.
Grab a drink and go have fun.
Yes.
So that's kind of the biggest thing. Most of the other things that we do here in New Orleans, I think, are easily accessible and explainable to other parts of the country. And, the second line, though, is one that they don't know how to parade like we do.
Yes. We do have the corner on the parade.
We do, yeah.
So, Jessica, I know you had a question about taboos.
Yeah, so just, talking about other, cultures and things like that, are there any things that you've been asked to do by couples that you maybe think are a little bit taboo in Western culture?
Or
vice versa, that are, maybe wouldn't necessarily translate as well as it would if it was in their native country or something like that?
Yeah. So definitely the first thing that comes to mind is the Asian use of the swastika, which
that's
has
very taboo here.
A really beautiful meaning and tradition. A lot of Asian cultures and religions, including Buddhism and Hinduism, look at that as, meaning of eternity or the cycling of life, or that God is everywhere and it's pointing in all directions. Right. Very positive and very deeply spiritual and meaningful for those people. And obviously the whole world suffered through the same atrocities in World War II. But I think, in those cultures, there's that understanding, and it's not marred by what happened. Here in the United States, that tends to be the only association with that symbol. So I find it's very, difficult sometimes. You have to kind of tread lightly on, well, how are we incorporating religious elements? Say, in a Buddhist wedding, there might be a tapestry covering the altar. how do we incorporate that if it's got a swastika woven into the fabric? And you don't want a guest here
offended.
Yes.
Right.
So, maybe we turn the linen around. Maybe we find a fabric that is a little bit different. But it's just trying to be sensitive to those things that don't translate well in our culture, that other cultures obviously totally understand why we would be sensitive to that, but it doesn't have that same meaning and connotation for them.
Well, I know you mentioned that the more you discover other cultures, the more you realize how similar we all are. What are some examples of some similarities that you see across a variety of cultures?
Definitely the circling or this symbol of the circle in one way or another. Okay. So obviously in Christian weddings, it's really about the ring a lot, and a lot of ministers will mention that and the cycle of life or eternity or the meaning of that. And then also you have in Hindu and Jewish ceremonies, Greek Orthodox, where the couples will circle each other or circle a fire, or, a very popular, newer kind of way to do it in Jewish traditions right now is that maybe the bride will circle 3 times, then the groom will circle 3 times, and then they do the 7th one together.
Because it's a 7 is an important number.
That's love really that. We just did that with a wedding I did a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was beautiful. Instead of just the bride circling 7 times, that it was
really
something
nice.
that they both did,
together.
So,
That's great. Yeah, we've done a number of weddings here where we've done a circle pattern for the ceremony. With the chairs and stuff.
Yeah.
So instead of just having everybody at the front, the bride and groom at the front, or the brides and grooms and whatnot, the guests can surround them.
Right, yeah. We even did one, it was a smaller wedding, so it made it possible to have the chairs configured like this, but we did like a whole spiral pattern.
Oh, cool.
Where they they walked the entire spiral all the way around. Yeah. And that was beautiful.
I love that.
But I love the symbol of everyone just being around you, and that's definitely very universal.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, even, a lot of the Celtic cultures, Welsh and Scottish and Irish, have the same symbolism with the circles. So they'll get married inside a circle of flowers, or maybe they do some candles at the 4 corners, if you will, for the north, south, east, and west sides of the circle, and having families stand in the round around them. So, I think it's not just things like that, but even like we mentioned before with the parade type of thing, with the Assyrian traditions, or, Hindu, it's just so many different cultures. I think we all share these same universal things that hold meaning to all of us. And so I think for me, that's one thing I love about doing different types of weddings, is just seeing the beauty in how everybody can be so different, but then come together so seamlessly at the same time, So I love that. I don't know.
I love it too. I love seeing different, families of completely different backgrounds just really come together and just enjoy the whole evening, and, bring all their family elements into it and have it be just like the most magical evening ever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do too.
I know we have another guest coming up in just a second, so we're going to take a very, very short break and come right back with another special guest. So stay tuned.
Hey y'all, we'll be right back. Don't run off. Grab a copy of the latest edition of New Orleans Weddings magazine at a store near you, or have a copy mailed to you. Visit thenowbride.com and click on Get a Copy. That's thenowbride.com. Happy planning from the New Orleans Weddings team.
All right, everybody, we are back from our very, very brief break as promised, and we have a fantastic guest who does the very yummy part of the weddings. We are very pleased to welcome Manish Patel from Tava. Please come on over and grab a cocktail with us.
Yes.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Cheers. Hugs. Thank you for coming. Thank you. And here we go.
Yeah,
cheers.
cheers.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
So I know that Rena, you know Manish,
Yes.
and you work a lot of weddings together, and
I eat a lot of his food.
you eat a lot of food. So tell us about Tava and what you do and what you bring to the catering experience in New Orleans.
So actually, I tell people I was born in the kitchen, right? I was
Okay.
raised in the kitchen. My father's a chef. He's traveled all over the world, immigrated to New Orleans, and just kind of started cooking for friends and family. And so as I was growing up, I was always in the kitchen with him. You know, chased a lot of other careers, and then finally went back into the kitchen. Started Tava out of pop-ups, out of bars.
Okay.
And then eventually moved into a food hall where I'm at right now.
So you're at Auction House Market?
The Auction House Market,
Yes.
that's right.
Which is such a beautiful space,
Yeah.
too.
Such
Oh,
a
yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
And am I correct? You opened a food truck location?
We're working on that right now.
Yeah, or you are. Okay, yes.
We're
So
working on the
excited.
second location as far as the food truck goes.
Yes,
And
awesome.
then also redeveloping the catering company with great partners like Alchemy Events.
Yes, fantastic. So now, I know obviously you do a lot of Indian food catering here. So we would like to hear more about the types of foods and how you, what type of clients you work with, and what type of flavors you bring into weddings.
Okay, so we've done a lot of weddings ranging from 150 guests to 800 guests. Definitely Indian weddings are long, so we're looking at 3 to 4 days.
Yes, a few hours was
Right, so we have a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of different parties, and they always want different cuisines. So it's not just all Indian all the time. Sometimes they want a little bit of fusion. So
Okay.
Asian, Indian fusion. Sometime we had someone wanted curried chicken and dumplings.
Oh.
No, I've never done that,
I once.
but we tried it, and
But
it
it
worked.
sounds good.
It worked, and they were
Dumplings.
happy.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's awesome. So, I mean, obviously, you're very familiar with all the traditions from Indian weddings. Tell us a little bit. I know that there was one that you told us about that's like the similar to a second line, but
That's right.
your own twist.
So in India, it's a tradition for the groom to have a procession to the bride's village where the wedding's going to happen.
Okay.
And so essentially, you think of it as a second line before the wedding.
Yes.
So the groom rides in on a horse with his entire village behind him, and they're singing and dancing the entire way.
That's awesome. That's
So,
awesome.
of course, in New Orleans, you can't really do that if the bride's from New York and the groom's from New Orleans. So what we did for my sister's wedding is there was 2 different hotels, one for the bride's family, one for the groom's family. And we had the procession. We blocked off 5 blocks of Canal Street,
Okay.
and we just had the procession coming down.
Nice.
Groom rode in on a convertible.
Instead of a horse.
Instead of a horse, instead of a band, there was a DJ in a van in front of him.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we were about 200 or 300 guests deep on Canal Street.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
So that was pretty cool.
That
Yeah, that
is
is
awesome.
great.
Talk about doing a parade right.
That is,
Yeah.
that is
Well,
great.
we're in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
That
Right.
is great. So, so tell us. I mean, Rena, I know you do a lot of Indian weddings, or tell us a little bit more about the culture. And like, Manish, please feel free to jump in and tell us. Like, we're very excited about all the different cultures.
Yeah,
and
any-
learning about new things.
Yeah, any traditions that are maybe like completely different than anything Western culture typically sees.
Oh, okay. So they have one party that I particularly love. Well, a couple, but one that I think is really cool that is totally foreign to Westerners is where they smear turmeric on the bride and groom. And so it's just a really cool and kind of messy and fun
Yes.
little party. I know for a couple of upcoming weddings that I'm doing, we're going to do that during the day, and then that evening we're going to do Sangi and henna parties. So they'll be doing, it's like a dance party, and of course doing the henna mindi on the guests. And I did that for my wedding,
Yes.
which was a lot of fun and just beautiful. And
Yes, it really is.
New Orleans henna does a great job, and she works in a lot of meaning into the designs as well, which Westerners may not realize. So I don't know, for me, I love things like that are just very different. it's I think the pre-party.
So
You know?
tell me about the turmeric and like what is the symbolic meaning behind that, or do you?
So so it's pretty much turmeric has a lot of cleansing properties, and so it's almost like purifying or cleansing,
So
the bride or
preparing.
groom before going to the wedding.
Yeah, and then I know
There's
the
a whole
henna.
ceremony.
Oh,
with
okay.
that as well.
Okay, and then the henna there's also a story behind that as well, why you do that and what the purpose is as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
You're looking at me too. So the one thing I think that is most widely known probably is, supposedly the darker the stain, the more that your in-laws are going to love you or, cherish you. And a lot of times they'll put the groom's initials into the design, and the groom has to try to find his initials in there. For mine, I personally, since I'm Buddhist, mine tended to skew very, very heavily into like the Sanskrit language. I had the words for love and peace, the symbols for those, like on my feet, things that I felt like on the bottom of my feet, I wanted to be walking in that, on the day of. And I had peacocks on the top of my feet. That's a very Buddhist, and kind of a lot of traditions talk about peacocks and they have meaning, but supposedly the story is that they can eat poisonous snakes, and it not only doesn't kill them, but the poison is what gives them the colors. So sort of like taking things in your life that might be negative and turning that into a positive. So for me, my henna was very much rooted in, Buddhist beliefs and auspicious symbols.
Right.
Yes, and things like that.
So there's a lot of meaning to it. It's not just pretty patterns.
Yeah, but I am seeing, and I don't know about you, I'm seeing a lot of modern designs lately where maybe like if the bride is from New York and the groom's from LA, that maybe they have like the skyline of one city on one hand and the skyline of the other city on the other hand.
Awesome.
And then when you put them together, they sort of like join up,
That's
Right.
So
I haven't seen that.
I love that
That's
idea.
a really cool idea.
kind of a modern, kind of fun take. So I think it depends on the couple too, how traditional they want to be, how religious they are, and if they want to incorporate new traditions with,
Older
things
traditions,
that.
right.
Yeah, one thing that I'm finding doing a lot of these weddings, especially in New Orleans, we get a lot of destination weddings, and so we have a lot of guests from the Northeast coming down, and they want to incorporate their Northeast culture with New Orleans culture and along with the Indian culture. So it's a bit of a challenge, but it's really cool because you can do a fusion of all 3 or 4 things.
Right. I think my favorite thing that I've seen, especially with the Indian weddings and stuff, is the colors. Like and obviously everybody's different, so there are a lot of Western culture weddings that have colors and things incorporated, but we also see a lot of white and gold.
Yeah.
And, like neutrals.
Blush.
And
It's whatever is
basic.
popular.
Whatever's trendy right now, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like Indian weddings are always so vibrant.
Gorgeous
So
Well,
vibrant,
As an American wedding, if you will, the bride wears white.
Yes.
Right. In Indian weddings, the bride wears white and red.
I know, I love
So
that.
right off the bat, there's a lot of color.
Right.
And when you go into the evening time, everyone's just wearing all the colors.
Yes.
Is
All
there a
the
particular
colors.
reason for that, or is it just because it's a vibrant celebration and it should be colorful?
I'm just gonna go with the vibrant celebration, but definitely a lot of gold.
But
Yeah.
Lots of gold, sequins. Those outfits are not comfortable.
Lots of
Yeah.
bling.
Yeah.
Lots
They
of
are not
bling.
comfortable.
So there's a market for comfortable
Yeah.
celebratory clothing. Is that what you're saying?
Or for the men at least, because I've never worn the saris. Right?
Well,
for the men's clothes, it's raw silk. So it's not that soft silk, it's really rough.
Uh-huh.
And then embroidery, there's no lining behind it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've worn costumes like that before. That's a lot.
So it really gets you. And then the shoes are not comfortable either, the little Aladdin shoes.
They're cute, but yeah.
And going back to tradition, we do something really cool. So during the religious ceremony in the wedding, you don't wear shoes. So bride, groom, everyone takes their shoes off, and the bride's side tries to steal the groom's shoes.
So that's part of is that one of the pre-ceremony or is it the actual ceremony?
It's not really a ceremony, it's just kind of a game in the middle of the wedding. And so
I had a wedding play this shoe game before.
yeah.
And I was very confused by it, but they were all really into it.
And
So
both sides, mostly it's like bridesmaids and the groomsmen, they try to steal the shoes back from each other the entire wedding. Ultimately, the groom gets his shoes back, but he's got to pay for it. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money that gets thrown around at these weddings. You got to pay for everything.
So this is like the money dance. Yes,
Pretty
that's
much.
awesome. That's great. Oh, it is really cool. You are right. I think that there's just different twists on different traditions. It's really interesting how we end up with such similar traditions, but executed in different ways.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that y'all have, like any other tidbits for us about cultural events and maybe something you think more Western weddings should have? Like what should we adopt from the Indian culture in Western weddings?
Well, see, in New Orleans we have the booze covered,
Okay.
and in Indian weddings we also have the booze covered.
I like the 4-day event concept. I think that could be something that we could.
That's a very New Orleans thing, right? We should be doing
like the pre-party, the after parties, the brunch afterwards. It's
There's
already
a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're already following in good footsteps here. Oh my gosh! Well, I'm so excited. I'm excited to hear more about this. See more weddings, and of course, we're going to be featuring weddings that you're doing, Rena, because we love it. And hopefully, we'll have a few of your catering jobs in there too. But thank you so much for joining us, and let's do one last little toast here. Cheers, and thank you for coming. Cheers, and. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for episode 7 of Cocktails with the Crew. We are looking forward to seeing you next week. Cocktails with the Crew is a New Orleans Weddings Magazine production, filmed on location at Republic NOLA in New Orleans Warehouse District, featuring host Jessica Talazak, Director of Special Events for Republic NOLA, and Jessica Burke, Publisher of New Orleans Weddings Magazine. Audio recording by Ellen Kramer. Video by Brian Jarrow. Theme music Blues Genius by Steve Fox. Copyright 2019 New Orleans Weddings Magazine.